Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm the editor-in-chief of National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, Jewelers of America National Jewelers co-branded webinar series. Today's session is hosted by Jewelers of America's PR and Events Director, Amanda Gizzi, and me. And we are featuring hopefully 4 guests today: Isabelle Corvin, Staff Gemologist, Appraiser, and Merchandising Manager at Panowitz Jewelers; Randi, Molofsky, founder of For Future Reference; Christina Gandia Gambale of Greenwich Street Jewelers; and if she can join us, Diane Frassanito, owner of Frassanito Jewelers. Before I turn it over to our host and guests to get the discussion started, I just want to let everybody know that if you have a question, you can drop it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens. I'll be back on at the end of the discussion to share any questions with our panelists. Also, we're going to be recording today's session, and it'll be available on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, May 19th. So now I'll turn it over to Amanda to get the discussion started. And as I mentioned, I'll be back on to field any questions at the end. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much. And welcome to our amazing group of panelists. We're excited to have you with us today and to go over this very timely conversation. Know that we're in trade show crunch with Las Vegas Market Week coming up very quickly. We know that everybody's time is precious, so we appreciate everybody being with us to share your insights and all of your help to get everybody ready to maximize their trade show presence. We do have a great panel with us, a lot of mixture of retailers with different varieties of experience. We have press, and we also have Randi, who runs her own business exhibiting for her clients and has lots and lots of years of experience as well. So what I'd like to do is actually just take a minute to allow you to introduce yourselves and talk about your own trade show experience and what you bring to the conversation. So I'll start with you, Isabelle.
Hi there, thank you. So I am Isabella. I am the staff gemologist, appraiser, and merchandising manager at Panowitz Jewelers. I've worked for Panowitz for 12 years, but I've been doing trade show, mostly prep for our owner to go to the shows for about 8 or 9 of those years. So retailer experience.
Terrific. Christina?
Sure, I'm Christina, co-owner of Greenwich Street Jewelers in New York City, and I have been attending the trade shows now going on around 12 years. My sister Jennifer and I go every year, and we always seem to learn something new.
Randi?
Hi, I'm Randi Molofsky. I own For Future Reference, which is a fine jewelry brand development agency. So I represent fine jewelry designers for both wholesale and public relations. I've been going to trade shows for jewelry trade shows for 20 years, over 20 years actually now. I started as an editor, and so I was going as an editor, and then consulted for brands and now representing brands. And I have my own space at Couture. So I've been to all of the jewelry trade shows from most different sides of the industry, which is really interesting. So I definitely can weigh in on a lot of different sides of attending and what that means.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
As mentioned, I'm the editor-in-chief of National Jeweler, and I've been with National Jeweler since 2007, which seems scary to say now, but it's true. And I started actually as what they called a senior editor covering diamonds. I think my actual title was diamond editor. So I was thinking about this the other day that I have been to every Las Vegas show since 2008 through 2000 this year. So however many years that is, obviously minus 2020, because nobody went in 2020. And my perspective has always been the same. It's always been from an editor's perspective. So my job at the shows is to set up interviews with, important executives who are there in town, go and see new brands, go into conduct interviews with, business leaders, et cetera. So I have a very, very kind of specific roles at the trade shows, and it definitely keeps us busy. But yeah, that's what I do.
Perfect. And I'm with JA, so I've been on both sides of the industry, sort of a little bit in capacity of attending as press, trying to cover the latest trends in fashion, what people are seeing, so that we can help pass that along to our retail members, but also to help better promote the fine jewelry industry on behalf of the industry. And then I also I'm on the exhibiting side. So we also have a trade show booth, and we're also trying to have our members come visit us at that trade show, at trade shows. So it's kind of a unique mix of a lot of different ways of being at shows. So I'm going to kick it off now. Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Diane Frassanito.
Hi.
So welcome, Diane.
Hello, how are you?
We're good, thank you. Do you want to take a second, introduce yourself, Diane, and just let
Sure.
everybody sort of know your trade show experience
Yes.
throughout the years? Yeah.
Yes, so I'm Diane Frassanito, the owner of Frassanito Jewelers in Huntington, New York. And I was thinking about this. I think I've been going to trade shows for over 40 years. Back in the day before there was even a Vegas, it's probably more than 40, but I don't want to give away my age. But it's been a long time, a lot of years, a lot of miles walked.
Terrific. That's really key. We'll talk about the mileage a little bit later when we talk about all of our fun ways to survive Las Vegas for sure. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about trade show prep. We're in that final push of helping people to get ready, and I know that there's a lot of prep that goes into the shows. So if you could give everybody a little insight into your best ways for prepping for shows in your own capacity. Isabelle, I know that you are in a unique position at Panowitz to really help your team get prepped for those shows. So if you could talk to us about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Now I've been to several trade shows, but never to Vegas. But I'm the person that gets everything ready for usually our owner and store manager go. And so I'm the one that does all the backstage stuff. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but I actually do one of these books with little dividers for them of all the vendors. I'm really big on being as prepared as possible, and I want to make it as easy for them because obviously they're going to be running like crazy. So I do a binder, and then each section will be for one specific vendor that we know that they're going to see. The kind of reports that I pull now, we do have like an integrated system. We have the Edge, but most systems have similar reports. So I usually, this is not a Vegas one, this is just an example, but I'll usually print a report that has pictures, and then for the vendors has their information. But I find that the pictures is really helpful, especially when it's very stylized, so that you don't get something that's so similar, or maybe you want something to go with, you know, a piece that you have. So I always do the pictures and the data. Find both of them to be easy, you know, really easy to get. And then also in stock, and then I'll usually do what we've sold. The last couple of years we've had to fudge the what we've sold a little bit, because obviously 2020 was strange, and then 2021 was strange the other way, with it was kind of a boom year. So I usually do the last year, but sometimes it's good to look back at more years as well, just to see what's trending in your area as well, because for us, we're usually a little bit behind some of the bigger cities in like where we are. So it's good to see what's trending for us specifically. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of having as many reports as you can of what's in stock, what you've sold. And then also one other little tip is to take pictures on your phone of the cases, so that you can see how much space you have to work with. I think that's super helpful as well.
Very helpful. Christina.
Sure. So we do something very similar to what Isabelle prepares, and sort of preparing reports. We put everything digitally, just we've found it's been a little bit easier to access, but traditionally we look at performance reports for all of our existing vendors that we will be meeting, including what has sold, what has not sold, and we also look closely at ROI to see if there are any areas or categories that are either overfed or underfed that we should focus on. So we do that analysis for all of our existing, and then what we look at as a store is look at all of our categories. to see which categories, again, are either being overfed or underfed, because that will help us and help inform us as to who we should be looking to bring on, so that we're not bringing someone on that necessarily is not going to help a category that needs a little bit more, product. And then from there, the other important thing that we do is we go to the team with the book, and we sit down and we look at it with our entire sales team and go through and say, okay, just curious to get your insight and thoughts as to who's appealing to you. Who do you feel like we have a customer for? Who do you feel like, what do you feel like we're missing? So I think a part for us is to do a bit of an intel and exploration with our sales team, because they're the ones on the front lines to really get their input as to, what type of jewelry we should be looking for. And if there's anyone of interest that they're interested in that we think we should be meeting with.
That's terrific. Diane.
Yeah, so I basically do the same kind of thing, pour over the data, lots of reports. A lot of people see me walking around the shows with my big folder. I've always got papers and stuff to look at, but we do take photos of all of the showcases and kind of a video as well, because a lot of times you're looking at things and you say, oh, well, I have so many, diamond earrings, but then you really need to drill down and say, I have a lot of diamond earrings, but are they all, hoop earrings? Do I have enough drop? Do I have enough stud? Do I have enough hoop, and balance it? And do I have enough yellow gold versus the white gold in all those different categories? We also reach out to customers and ask them if there's anything that they want us to look for, anything in particular that, they think we should carry that we don't have. And just try and drill down with each specific vendor how much merchandise we have, what really is the optimum amount that we should be carrying from them based on the sales. So, and also start out with a number for open to buy of where we want to be, so that we can plug all of those things in. And then that way you don't end up, overbuying.
Very smart. Randi, how about you? A little bit different side of the business. What is your trade show prep looking like?
Yeah, definitely a different side coming from the brand perspective. And I'm working with 8 different brands. And so it's a lot of prep on that side as well. Different. I mean, it's actually really interesting to hear this. It's, we look at it kind of from the other side, coming in with our own data in terms of how we've been doing at certain stores, and really looking at that information as well, looking at the orders from last year, looking at the orders in between, understanding what has been successful and what has not been successful, to make sure that we, and that's something that we do throughout the year, though, obviously, to really make sure that we're able to provide the type of merchandise that the stores are looking for, or holes that we missed last time, or price points that we're trying to hit. So that's really important. And for us, it's really, in terms of setup, we do a lot of prep for, just getting the cases ready. Like, what will our case look like? What inventory will we have in there? Exactly how do we want to present these collections? We do a setup beforehand. We, and take pictures so that we know exactly how we want it to look when we get there, as long for all the inventory that we actually have, which, sometimes things show up at the last minute, but we do our best, we fill in, and we really try to have that set up so we make sure that we feel really confident. We try to do our best with images as well. I mean, everybody wants images right away, and they want completed line sheets, and they want all of that ready to go. And it's very hard leading up to the end, because there's always little things here and there that aren't quite finished or haven't quite made it. And so we really do our best we create online links that are available for anyone who comes in for an appointment, whether it's a retailer or an editor, where they can immediately, as soon as their appointment's over, we give them a link that has folders to all of our different brands, all of the images that we have, and then those links stay live, so that as soon as other images come in, whether it's, some pieces that we've missed or whatever, that we add them in, and those links are already live for people, and they can download immediately and have high res and have access to our line sheets. So we try to keep all of that online as much as possible, whereas, for years that was really done with a handout or paper, and we try to not give anybody anything anymore that they have to take with them. So that's been a big shift, I think, in recent years, where it's really like, what can we provide to you that'll be ready for you to go when you walk out the door, so that you have all of the information you need to make the orders you want to make. And then, also, I think another just little tip is just, we always, anytime a store comes in or an editor comes in, or you could be having the greatest conversation, but put it all on a tray, take every piece out, whether you're making notes or not, and take a picture of that tray of all the things that people are interested in, and keep those as coordinated as possible. I have someone who stays back in my office in New York on our team. All of those pictures are sent to her, labeled by store, so that you can always reference with an image, not just with your notes or just with your memory. So I think that's really important too, to kind of get that prep in mind before you're there and on site.
Terrific.
Do that as well.
I have one more thing to add that we started doing, which I found has been pretty helpful. With some of our vendors, what we've done is we've gone through the reports on a call before the show even, so that everyone is on the same page at that time of like, what the plan will be. So in that hour time slot, you're really just focusing on product pick and kind of any conversations that you need to have that could, better have without the pressure of the show, it's done ahead of time.
Yeah, we have a couple of vendors that I'll actually email all the reports over, like right about now for them, because they like to have an idea of what we have as well. And I do find that really helpful. That way everybody knows right there. And then they can kind of pre-pick as well, because obviously they know their jewelry better than anybody. So then they can kind of be like, oh, I think this would be really great. So yeah.
Yeah, I think as much prep that you can do ahead of time makes the appointments go smoother, because I'm sure everybody knows if you get behind on the first appointment, it's a domino effect and you just can't catch up once you get behind. So.
Yeah, I seriously get overwhelmed for you all just being in the trade show, just knowing the appointments. And I always feel bad even saying hi to people. Like I know I'll see Jennifer and Christina in the hall. Like, hi, like I know that you don't have time for me right now. I'll see you later. But it's always like that tricky balance. We know how pressed everybody is for every single second.
But we always have time for you, Amanda.
Oh, so sweet. So another question that I have for you is the predetermined buy. We're talking right now, I hear everybody talking about the heading into the appointments with your existing clients. Where are the opportunities for new buying, for seeing new brands? Are those all pre-scheduled with appointments, or do you allow yourself time, or your buyer's time, Isabelle, in your case, to really meander and explore and find new things? So what is the predetermined versus your existing?
Yeah, I'm just curious, just jumping in, Amanda, it's a really good question. So I'm curious, you set aside a day and like, this is our fun day, this is our open day, just go out and find new people? Or do you do just appointments from the time you get there till the time you leave? Sorry, Isabella.
No, that's a great kind of add-on too, because it is really important. I think appointments are super important because it keeps you on track. And also it's nicer for your vendors as well, because, they need to schedule people as well. So we've done it a couple of different ways. The first day is always jam-packed with the people that we already work with, kind of in order of who we want to see first, or who we absolutely need to see something from. And then after that, it's a little more flexible. So we've tried in the past to do like time blocks where it's just open. And then we've also, one time they did an entire day that was open, but and I don't know if they're going to see this, but the feedback that the owner and manager gave me was that was too open-ended, because they got really excited, because there's just so much to see. So we do try to at least have some kind of a list of like, here's some new people that all of us really want you to check out. And then at that point, if there's more and they have time, then they can do whatever. But we do try to have a pre-sorted list of new people as well before the show, because it's overwhelming, and especially when there's all in so many different locations as well. So there is some prep for that still. I find that can be really helpful to stay on track.
I always make sure that my first day, and starting with the absolute first appointment, I worry about buying loose diamonds, because I want to be able to cherry pick the best stuff. And I know that if I see other vendors, they're going to order whatever I need. But when it comes to the diamonds, you know, you really have to concentrate on that first, in my opinion, so that you get the best selection. So that's always what I concentrate on. And I always do try to leave a little bit of time every day just to walk the floor and see if I spot something new that catches my eye. And then usually the last day will be for that as well. But I pack them in. But I also have a rule that every day, because all of my friends who have stores all over the country, we don't get to see each other very often. So the rule is between 1 and 2, you don't schedule any appointments because that's when we meet for lunch.
Christina? How about you?
So we definitely leave room for discovering new, new talent. We do have some booked appointments with people that we're kind of interested in seeing, but you know, we do leave a fair amount of walking time, a little bit each day, just so that if we kind of see and leave some open time. So if we're walking and we want to come back and they're with someone, we can usually find a spot to kind of where both of us can drop it in either the next day or the day after. So a little bit of time each day, we leave some open-ended time, kind of some what we would call pop-up appointments.
And sub question that just came in, but while we're on the topic, do you also leave funds for these new finds in your budget, in your trade show budget? Is it all predetermined of where you're going to spend the money, or do you allow yourself a little freedom for these new finds? Is something that's
Yeah, I mean, I have an overall budget, but I would always want to leave for something new because I feel like that's part of the point of going to a trade show, is to discover new. And if you don't allow any funds for that, then it's kind of a waste of your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and again, I'm maybe being a little too honest here. So what we've started doing, because sometimes when you're at the show, you get really excited and you pick out way too much. We've done it that anything that's from a vendor that we've never worked with before, we have them pick it out at the show. And then we'll have that vendor contact us the following week or 2 weeks, whenever they can. And, you know, here's what you guys picked out. And then we can look at it again without the frenzy of the trade show. And at that point, then we'll kind of pare down from there of, oh, wait, well, we already have this or something. So there's a little bit of a budget that we leave for that, but we do kind of wait before we make a decision on anything, just to make sure that we're for sure wanting to get all this stuff. It can be a little helpful so your cases don't get too full as well, because sometimes where to put a piece is tricky.
And we do the same in terms of once we like something, we have them write notes and send it to us so that we can review it post-show and then also show our team.
Great. Michelle, do you have any questions before I move on to my next question?
I was just curious. So Isabella, I want to follow up on what you said. So you're kind of like trying to guard against buyer's remorse, right? I mean, do you find when you go to these shows, have you overbought, and this is a question for everybody, have you overbought in the past and gotten home and been like, you know, we were just really excited and we got back to the store and we're like, well, we have something very similar to this, or that was an impulse purchase and not a good idea. And like, how do you work that out?
We absolutely have that happen. It's gotten better. Like I said, they're at the show. It's very hard to not get excited because you're seeing so much cool stuff. And when you're looking at new vendors, obviously it's new. And one-of-a-kind pieces have been really good for us. So that's always a consideration. So we absolutely have overbought. One of the things that, besides just, you know, crying about it after the fact, one of the things that we've kind of done is possibly moving things around in our store. That's for 2 reasons. One, to make room for it and separate it from something that's similar, but also it creates kind of an effect where the sales team and the customers get excited too, because everything looks new then. And we found that that can kind of help if you are stuck with something that is cool, but maybe too similar. If you just move your entire store or move a couple cases, can make all the difference and make it seem not so samey. So we have done that before, and it's been pretty successful, you know, to kind of help with that and make sure that you keep that excitement going of new stuff. So yeah.
Sounds good. So another question focusing, Randy, let's talk to you a little bit. What are your brands? I actually have two questions for you. What are your brands focusing on for the upcoming shows? Are there any key areas that are really heroes that you're seeing sort of across your brands? I know you represent a lot of different styles, but is there any common theme that you really see emerging that you're going to be promoting this year?
Ooh, it's a tough question because I have a definite lot of varied designers, but we focus a lot, particularly on color. So we always have a lot of color. And I think this year people are still really pushing and excited about color. So it can be anything from, I would say it's less like super precious and more leaning towards semi-precious or accessible things where you can do cool designs in bigger sizes and bigger scale with a not crazy price tag. So I think semi-precious has really exploded in the fine designer world in terms of just using it creatively. It could be a lot of mix and match. It could be cabochons. It could be, opaque stones that have a lot of interest in design, but like a lot less of a price tag. So I think that's something that we're seeing a lot of. And I think specifically for this year, we are trying to really have a large availability in different price points. Clearly, it was a little bit of a tough spring in general for sales and for designers, and I think obviously for stores too, you could say. And so we really want to make sure that there is that high to low mix, whereas I think last year we came in the door with a lot. There still will be for us a lot of great one-of-a-kinds and a lot of cool high-end pieces, but we really wanted to make sure to capture that lower end of the price range as well, so that there's a little bit of something for everybody, starting price points, smaller studs or drop pendants or things like that, that I think we were focusing less on the last couple of years when we were really in for us, a huge jewelry boom where people were kind of just going for it. Now we're really making sure to cover that market. I think that's really important for this year, and we'll see how it goes, but fingers crossed, but hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, I think if I just interject, I think inflation and the rising interest rates, like continually rising interest rates, are starting to put a little bit of a damper on the party, like particularly at the high end. And I mean, it's jewelry buying always goes in cycles, right? Like I've been here for so many years. I've seen so many ups and downs now. I don't think I'd ever seen a boom like we experienced like second half of 2020 throughout 2021 into last year, but I think that's starting to slow down a little bit for various reasons. But
I agree. I mean, hopefully we'll have a great Vegas and everyone's still really excited. But I think that's for the last question that was asked about stores coming in, and I think something that's interesting for us is we really do stack our first day with our top retailers, because our designers really do a lot of one-of-a-kinds, or at least limited edition, or things that are only, there's maybe only one of, or there's maybe only a few similar ones of, and maybe they'll remake or maybe they won't. And so I think that's really important to note. If there's certain designers that you work with that you really want to get in there and get the key pieces and want to be first and want to be able to offer your clients the best of the best, you were saying, Diane, that diamonds are what you look for first. Right. For us, for our stores, they come in for the one-of-a-kinds. And so, we have those
theory, basically. Anything
exactly.
that there's not multiple, quantities of, that's what you need to concentrate on in the beginning.
Exactly. So get there first. So we really have our top stores that are clamoring for those, 9 a.m. Thursday morning appointments to get there, because they want to have the first pick of everything. And so I think that's important to note in your scheduling too, that we see that from our end too. And we really try to get our top stores in there first for that reason.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the follow-up questions that I was going to ask you, Randy, is about appointments, because I feel guilty as a non-buyer making press appointments for the morning of the opening show, because I know that everybody's clamoring for those precious one-of-a-kinds. So I'm always very aware of that as well, because I know that's super important.
No, you know what? Look, for us, it all goes hand in hand, and the press for us, helps drive the sales. So we try to get everyone in there whenever they're available, really. So, that's why, for us, I moved into a villa at Couture so I'd have more space, because I really wanted people to have the room to take their appointments and to feel like they have some privacy and feel like they have some space to make selections without somebody looking over their shoulder. So that became a really big priority for us in Couture and Vegas planning in general, is making sure we had the space to accommodate everybody to feel like they were getting the time that they needed to really shop well and shop with, with all of the things in mind that they need to do without feeling crowded.
Which sort of takes me into another question, which is an experience. At trade shows, just like everywhere else, I think brands try to provide a certain experience for their retailers. Is there anything as retailers that brands do or can do to further incentivize you to come by the booth? What type of experience do you look for in appointments or in visiting with brands at shows, if any?
And if I could piggyback a little bit, because this question came in, Amanda, while we were chatting, and I think it's a good one. What would you recommend, particularly for new brands in this space, like a brand going for the first time that doesn't have a lot of stores but wants to attract you? Is it mints? Is it water bottles? Do you like to sit down? Like, what are you looking for? Diane, do you want to start?
Well, water definitely, because I always feel like, you got to stay hydrated in Vegas, and it's always on the top of my list, but somehow I don't do it. And when you sit down and someone offers you a bottle of water, you're like, and you'll go to some booths and they don't have it and you have to ask for it and you feel badly. So that's definitely something that vendors should keep in mind. A little candy here and that doesn't hurt either, give you the sugar boost. But I never really worry about, like, if someone has, we're going to give you a free whatever. I don't ever let that influence me. If I want something, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to go to the vendors that I want to see. But there definitely are some, like Hearts on Fire comes to mind. They take very good care of you, so they know that you're running. So if you know that you don't have time to eat, you can go there. There's always going to be something for you to eat, and you can just take a breath and relax. And I find that's very helpful. They're thinking about you, and running around, like not being able to stop, and at least having that as a place for a little bit of an oasis. But yeah, definitely water should be at every booth, in my opinion.
Yeah, water, or like some sort of protein bar, if somebody wants it, just put it there. That's always good. I would say another kind of great thing for vendors, if they can, is to be really upfront and offer some special terms for the show. Like, for Vegas, if you order something, we'll do 30, 60, 90. I do think that can help, especially if you've not worked with them before, because it can be a huge commitment and you're like, oh, I'm on the fence about this. But if you have that little bit of leeway with payment terms, I do think that for us, that's kind of a bonus, and we would be more apt to maybe do a bigger order at that point, because it gives us some time to introduce the brand in our store, build some traction with it. I do know that a lot of designers offer the terms, but I don't see that many of them are they should brag about it more, I guess is what I'm saying. Just be really open about, yeah, we will definitely give you some show terms of some sort, because I do think that would really help. And then it takes the pressure off of the retailer who maybe doesn't want to ask for it, but kind of needs to as well. So I would say business wise, maybe some special show terms are good, and just be really open about what they are. And yeah, bottled water. I mean, you can't go wrong with bottled water.
Christina?
I would add to that. I think, Isabelle, hit a good point in terms of, and it goes a little bit of what are the negotiables and what are the non-negotiables? Because I think that, from a store, we have certain things where we want to see some flexibility on, to show that there is a commitment and an understanding and a partnership to not only investing in a brand, but seeing that long-term growth. But I think from a brand's perspective, they need to know where they can flex and where they cannot, because then it would just hurt their brand, which I think in the end of the day, no one wants to feel like they're giving too much. But I think that understanding that, it should be a long-term partnership. It should be about it's never just going to be from the top really quickly and then keep on going. It takes a build up, whether it's from, from the retailer, giving the key space, doing the training, setting up the marketing, building the cadence, like that takes time. And so for me, our most successful brands that we've seen a lot of growth in, there's been a really kind of hand-in-hand partnership from the beginning, and really candid conversations of, again, what you can flex on and what you just cannot. I think really quickly helps everyone understand is this something that we can both go into together, knowing what the expectations are on both sides.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm always looking for somebody who wants to be a partner. I'm just not looking for somebody who's just going to be an order taker. And when we get a new brand, I also want to know that there's some flexibility for stock balancing, because you don't really know what the reaction is going to be. You want to know that you have a backup plan. Well, if this particular collection or this particular piece doesn't work, what will work? And, you want to have a little bit of flexibility with the stock balancing, especially with a new brand.
Yeah, for sure. I know that the payment terms was a question, Michelle, that we received in advance of the webinar as well. What terms should the designer request of a new retailer?
Yes.
And I think what I heard from you all was a little bit, there's not one right answer. That's correct?
Yeah, we kind of ask for terms based on what we're ordering, because obviously we don't want to, well, we only bought $1,000 from you, but you better give us, 90 days or something. Like it does vary, but on our larger orders, what we kind of our standard to ask for is 30, 60, 90. That gives us enough time to get it in, train everybody, hype it up a little bit, and then hopefully by the time we're to that 90 days, we have a reorder, and we can immediately reorder everything. And yeah, the stock balance terms, and also, any questions about if something breaks, can you repair it? Just all of those questions that seem kind of obvious, but it is nice when you're at the show to have them give you a definite answer and, just be really open and honest. If they can't, like Christina was saying, just, what can you flex on and what can't you? Just be honest with me. I think that really helps build that instant trust with the brand. It's just good all the way around, but for sure the payment terms kind of varies depending on what you buy. But I'd say if it's a larger order, our standard is 30, 60, 90 to ask for and request, see if they'll do that.
I think that if you know going in that you have flexibility, especially when it's a new brand, you're going to take more of a chance and you're going to buy with more confidence, knowing that you've got a backup plan. So it works for everybody that way. And that's where the partnership comes in, like Christina was saying. That to me is paramount.
I think also too, it depends, what we've noticed is the size of the brand is going to have a different strategy. Some of the bigger brands, may have a little bit more flexibility with longer payment terms, where some of the smaller brands, that's going to really, hit at a point that's not going to be feasible for them. So maybe in that case, it's, a memo support on some of the bigger pieces to, build that kind of, and I would agree with Randy, it's nice to see the brands almost like building a pyramid where there's a little bit of a top and then it kind of comes down to make it accessible. So maybe, the brand is buying into the best sellers and the pieces, or the store is buying into the best sellers and the pieces that kind of turn quickly, and the ones that take a little slower are being kind of maybe supported in. So it's just another way of creating that partnership.
Any tips from your side, Randy, of what you've been successful with or what you tend to do the most with your brands?
We definitely try to have some flexibility for sure. And it does depend on the buy, as Christina is saying, like, we do have minimum orders for most of our brands. We work slightly differently than just because we're representing from a showroom perspective. We really offer a lot of support. So in addition to just our sales support, wholesale support, we offer, PR support and marketing support and all kinds of things for the stores. So we look at that as a real bonus for people as well when they're coming in, trying to give added value. So for us, if it's supporting the retailers by saying, you know, we will get you credits in magazines and we will credit your store if these are items that you purchased, or, you know, whatever it may be. If you're doing a trunk show, we will support you from a marketing perspective and on our social channels, as well as just the brand, but the showroom as well. And so for us, we do like to offer as much added value as possible, in addition to being slightly, you know, certainly we'll be flexible. And again, like we have 2 brand new brands this year who are showing for their first time at Couture. So can we be a little bit more flexible with them than we will be with, say, some of our more flagship brands who are extremely established? For sure. You know, there's opportunity there to talk about what terms might be, or if there's a memo complement, or, you know, if there's all of those things are options. And as we slowly build the brands, but we like to make sure that the stores know that we're only working with brands that are a long-term commitment. They're not just here as like, oh, they're here for 1 year and you might not see them again. I think that's a really important thing. It's like, this is a commitment financially from everybody's perspective. And then also you'll have the support of the showroom. So just added value, whatever, however you can do it.
Definitely. Could you all give me your top 3 tips? Retailers, if you could talk about your top 3 tips for retailers attending shows, and then Randi, from your side, for your brands, attending or exhibit, you know, anybody exhibiting at the show. We have a ton of questions that are coming in, so we want to make sure we allow lots of time for Q&A. And then we're also going to do a lightning round after this as well. So if you could each just give me your top 3 tips, that would be great. And I will mix it up and start with Randi. Threw you off, Randi.
Look, for me, it's all about getting started early. That's it. For us on the brand side, it's a calendar game. It's working backwards. It's understanding the dates. It's understanding your deadlines. It's understanding how long before the show to have a picture available for the show. Like, what does that mean your production schedule has to look like? What does that mean about your stone buying? What does that mean about the other shows you attend? So for me, it's really a calendar game of working backwards. And it's hugely important to do it that way, because there's so many little details that people are looking for once you're on site, that if you haven't scheduled that out ahead of time, that you're kind of in trouble. And so even for us, you know, when I go to Tucson with a lot of my brands, and we're buying stones there, and that's literally like crunch time. Like, these stones are going into production for Vegas. Let's get that done and moving, because we need to be ahead of it and understand and have our line sheets ready and have all the pricing done. And all of this takes time. And so for me, it's considering Vegas, not just Vegas. It's considering Vegas, you know, honestly, almost truthfully, as the show ends, we're looking ahead and thinking about timing to make sure that everything's correct. So, you know, for me, that's my top tip, is really looking at the calendar and understanding your schedule as much as possible. And then getting your, for us, for my team, it's really getting our, all of our databases aligned and making sure that we are hitting everybody we need to hit, talking to everyone we need to talk to, making sure our databases are completely up to date, looking at stores that we maybe haven't spoken to, but really getting those appointments lined up well ahead of time. We're probably, you know, we usually send an invitation out, I don't know, a month and a half before the show, but this year retailers were getting in touch with us before that. They were getting in touch with us 2 months out from Vegas, saying, when can I set up my appointment? Can I get in there first? And so you have to be ready and prepared. And so that's really my number 1 top tip, and I'll let other people talk too.
Yeah, I was going to say my top 3 tips are prep, and prep, because honestly, I don't think that there's such a thing as being too prepared. If you have all your data, you've already analyzed everything, you have an overall sense of what your showcases look like, it's kind of ingrained in your brain because you've been doing it for so many weeks in advance, that by the time you're walking the floor, you already know it when you see it. And then you can back it up, you know, with your data saying, yes, I do need that particular necklace in that color, in that price point. And it's just so much easier if you do all the hard work ahead of time. And it's a lot of prep. I'm sure you girls know you do the same thing. I mean, weeks and weeks of poring over the data and putting it into a place where you can find it readily and access it when you need it. And by the time you do that for so many weeks, you have it practically memorized. So it just makes the show, walking the show, so much more, enjoyable. And I think you get more out of it. So that's my key tip.
That's what allows you to be able to do such fun Instagram posts while you're there, Diane, because I get to see, if you guys don't follow Frassanito, you should follow them. They have a good time when they go to shows. It's cute to see.
It's also good to have Shayna with me doing it. She had to rely on me, maybe not so much. And having Olivia back here who does it all from the back end. So yeah, we had a good time with it this last trip in Arizona at Centurion. It was great.
Does anybody have a tip that's outside of being prepared?
I would say, I mean, obviously the prep for the show is important, but I did want to add as well, make sure you take care of as much stuff as you can back at your store from a retailer's perspective, so that you don't have that added stress of, oh shoot, I forgot to do X, Y, and Z. Have your prep there as well, so that you can really be present at the show, focus completely on that, and not have to also, stress about a customer's thing you forgot to follow up on, or, something else like that. That would be a different kind of prep.
For me, the one that comes to mind is just don't work within a bubble, engage your team in conversations. I think the idea of consulting top clients is a really sound one. I think that going into these shows, sometimes, you're getting bombarded by a bunch of different styles and brands, and, everyone has something that they're going to do differently. And it can kind of, after a while, feel a little numbing as to which is going to be the right one. So I think having that insight beforehand will allow you to be able to decipher which message is going to be the right one for your store.
Michelle, what's your top tip?
I think my top tip, it's kind of in the wheelhouse of preparation. My top tip is organization, because we are a team of 4 going out to these shows, and we have to figure out what are the education sessions that look good that we shouldn't miss? Who are the new companies that are worth seeing, whether it's a technology company, a designer, et cetera. Who is going to this, who is going to that, who is covering this, just to make sure, we're only 4, so we're not going to get to see and do everything, but to get as much covered. And also we try not to overlap. So I think sometimes for brands it gets disappointing. They send emails to all of us, and it's like, well, I only have 4 people. So a lot of times it doesn't make sense for 3 of us to go and see the same brand. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So we have a kind of a divide and conquer mentality. Also this year, I have a new color gemstone editor. Her name is Lauren McLemore. I can't wait to introduce her in Vegas. So we are having her shadow different members of the team each day, rather than just releasing her into the wild, because it's too overwhelming. She would, how would you even, I don't remember what I did. Honestly, it's been so long. I don't remember what I did my first year in Vegas, but I feel like it's too, she needs some kind of structure her first year. Ashley and Lenore, who've been with me 7 years and 5 years respectively, I can kind of let them go. They know the drill at this point. But that's probably another tip. If you have someone new on their team, make sure they're going with some guidance. They're either shadowing someone, or they have a very clear and explicit set of instructions. Otherwise, they're not going to get done what you're thinking they're going to get done unless they have some direction.
And mine is mark your camera roll. Every time I go to a different booth, I always have to make sure I take a picture to mark where I am. So that way, as I'm going back through in the coming days, I remember exactly who had that ring that I was obsessed with, or ring that we want to feature, or whatever it is. Wait, whose was that? 'Cause in the moment, you're like, I would never forget, because I know. But then you see, 1,800 pieces of jewelry over the course of 5 days, and suddenly you can't remember.
You always have this idea that you're going to remember everything, and you're not. You need to be writing it down or taking pictures, either one of those two. Amanda, is it time for the lightning round?
It's time for the lightning round. Is everybody ready? So we have some fun questions that we're going to ask. Everybody can give me just a couple word answers. And all of these tips are in How to Survive Vegas, or the best ways to survive Vegas. Starting with best footwear. I will go ahead and just let you all just sort of work your way around. I won't call on anybody, throw anybody off, but best footwear.
Okay, I'm gonna start with that one because I have a major issue with that, but I'm too vain to just wear sneakers or something comfortable. So I just bring a lot of shoes. I try and find the thing that's the most stylish and the most comfortable, but I always have a little pair of flats or something in my bag just in case.
Okay.
So my trick for shows is wear different shoes each day because then your feet hurt in different spots.
And bring lots of padding, lots of
Yeah.
moleskin.
For me, it's flats or sneakers. I could care less what it looks like. I just don't want to hurt.
You can carry it off, Christina. I can't.
Yeah, I've transitioned to flats during the day as I've gotten older, and I save the fancy shoes for nighttime, but during the day, no, I'll wear a cute pair of sneakers or I'll wear flats and call it a day.
Do you wear your own jewelry to your appointments?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you take off your own jewelry at appointments? To try
Yes.
things
Try
on?
the things on.
Always makes me nervous. I do. I try on hearing before I buy it, so it's always a dangerous thing. I gotta be very conscious of putting everything back on again. I know it's a bad habit.
Well, I'm the luckiest person here probably because I get to wear whatever I want out of my villa all the time. So I get to pick out whatever matches my outfits and all the newest stuff, and I wear it all because it looks even better on when people walk into the villa and they see it more and they notice it more. So I pick out all the best stuff and I steal it and I wear it.
I can back up Randy. She does pick up all the best stuff. I don't know about the stealing it, but she does pick out all the best
I
stuff.
steal it for the day. I steal it for the day.
And that's actually a great tip for exhibitors. Have everyone in your booth wearing the jewelry. I
For
mean, it's
sure.
the same thing you would tell people in a store, right? Have your salespeople wearing the jewelry that you're trying to sell. And it's the same thing in a booth in a trade show. Like, you know, I mean, it just so much jewelry. Like, I mean, from somebody that like runs 1,000 pictures of jewelry, something could look lovely in a picture, but it's a totally different experience when we finally get to try it on. And I think that like having the jewelry on people, this is a tip for exhibitors, is so important. Everyone in your booth, men included. And you could try like styling different ways to wear it too, like to show it's versatile. It doesn't just have to be one way or one thing.
Okay, you're dress up or dress down?
Dress up.
Dress up.
That's why I can't wear the sneakers, but maybe I need to change my philosophy.
You can wear I get dressed up. I like to get dressed up, and I think it makes me, I'm usually tired, so it makes me feel better when I look better. So the more fun outfit I have on, the better I feel.
I'm a dress up too. Like the sweatpants during the pandemic made me so depressed. Like I feel so much better like myself to like put on something nice. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm wearing like a Gem Awards level dress, but I would say it's like on the dressier side of business casual. That's how I describe it.
Yeah, and kind of similar. It's business casual, but a little bit nicer, sort of what I would wear if I was at the store. It helps me feel and remind myself that I am working, even though it's a trade show.
I would agree with all that, exactly.
All right, your one must-have item to pack, Christina.
My head went to shoes, but I know we kind of went through that. So looser fitting clothes by the end of the trip.
I actually plan my outfits that way. The nice things get worn in the beginning, the loosest things at the end.
I pack a big box of emergency, and I take it in the morning with hot water or just whatever. And that's like how I start my day, with some extra vitamins.
I always make sure I have either a pashmina or an outfit that has a jacket because I find myself freezing in a lot of the ballrooms and I can't concentrate when I'm cold. So
Michelle?
The emergency made me chuckle because I started slipping that into the book when I would send it with our owner. And at first she was like, why did you put emergency in here? And then the next year I did it. She was like, this is the best thing ever. And I was like, I know. But for me personally, I think packing an extra outfit just in case the weather takes a sudden turn and you were not expecting it. That way you're not stressing about that. As little stress as possible as you can have.
Michelle, what's your must?
It's very random and strange, but I always take a book. I always take a new book, or I'm always reading something. So I usually take the book I'm reading. I find that I like to unwind in my room at night by reading a little bit. I mean, not an hour, but maybe 30 minutes before I go to bed. And it's just nice to have something to focus on other than in like all the things that are going through your mind all day at the trade shows. I often wonder sometimes when I'm reading, I was like, I wonder if I'm the only person in the room reading a book in Las Vegas right now.
Yes, probably.
No, I always pack a
Um,
book, but usually for the plane. I'm too tired to read by the time I get back to the room.
So
All right,
that's
what's your
my-
top tip to looking rested?
Oh my gosh, what do you call it? The pads that you put underneath your eyes. That helps. And trying to get, as I know it's hard, especially the first night, you can't kind of like unwind, but try and get as much sleep as possible and gel eye pads whenever you can.
Yeah,
Drink a
try-
lot of water.
Yeah, water, try to keep your sleep schedule, even though you're running and you're in a different place, try and just keep it what you're used to, I think is really would help you out if you can.
Every time I pass by like a station that has coffee and all that, instead of getting coffee, I get hot water and I throw 2 lemons in it because it's really good for hydration. And I also, as Diane said, I get cold. So I like some hot water, some extra lemon for skin, and it helps every time I walk by one, I'll just grab it
Smart.
every time I see it.
And wearing bright colors, right, Randy?
And I wear obnoxious clothing as well. So that also helps.
It does, for sure. Your favorite thing about a trade show?
Oh, my favorite thing is seeing all my friends in the industry who I don't get to see very often. So that's what keeps me going and makes me want to come back.
Same. For sure.
Everyone's the people, right?
Yeah.
It's the real gems, as they say. Your least favorite thing about trade shows? Say the people.
walking.
My aching feet.
Yes, the walking. When you realize you're on one side, you go all the way to the other side.
Yeah, for me, it's set up like unbagging 500,000 pieces of jewelry and like, but once it's done, it's great. But that setup part is, although getting to see new jewelry that I haven't seen yet is fun. That's the fun part of setup. So
Actually, you know what my least favorite thing is? Packing to go.
Oh,
That's a nightmare to me. I kind of psycho with that. I do it very, very far in advance. I do a lot of my clothes shopping like during the year. I'll just see them, oh, that would be great for Vegas. And I just buy it and put it away so I have it. And then literally weeks before, I plan everything out and I make lists. And I write every day, I'm going to wear this, this, and this, and this.
it
goes
sounds like you like it, the way that you're organized with it.
I just like to torture myself.
Well, Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you for a couple final questions as we're running close to the end of time here.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question that came in. It might be semi-controversial, but someone wanted to know, do you all feel that the shows are as important as they used to be, given technology and changes to how reorders are done today? And this is a question that I feel like I have opinion, but this is a question that kept coming a lot up before COVID, but I feel like in a strange way, COVID kind of answered it. In my opinion, this was a question that came up a lot before COVID, like, what, do we still need all these trade shows? Do we still need all these trade shows? Then when we couldn't go to any trade shows at all, I think everybody figured out pretty quickly that they missed the connection.
Yes. Yes.
So that would be my answer. Like, you're right. You could sit, we know this now because we did it. You could sit behind a computer every day and you never really have to leave your house, to be honest. Like, you could order everything you need, see everyone you want to see, but is that the same as seeing people in person and touching and feeling things? I would argue no.
Absolutely not. I mean, I did not find it fun buying jewelry over Zoom or having things sent in and have to look at it and then ship it back. And like, it's the connection, it's everything. It was a sad way to do things. I mean, you had to do it, so you did what you had to do. But I would never want to go back to just solely that.
Yeah, and I think that's, for me, that's a question, like I said, that came up a lot before COVID, and COVID, like, a lot of people thought, well, what's gonna happen to the trade show industry after COVID? I think if anything, all this separation just made the main point of these shows stronger, which is the human connection, which just can't be simulated over a computer.
Well, and for us, even before COVID, we were already doing like our rapid reorders. We never used the trade shows for that. That was always to find new things. And so for that, I mean, the trade shows are a must. If you want to go see something new, you want to see the one of a kinds first, then you have to go. It's just, that's what it's all about. So.
And then I think we're at time, sorry. I know there were a lot of questions that came in. I feel like we got to a lot of them during the course of the discussion, but I'm sorry if we did not get to answer everybody's questions. Thanks again, Isabella, Christina, Diane, Randy, Amanda, thanks for hosting today. And thanks to all our attendees who came. As I mentioned, this was recorded, so it would be up on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, that is May 19th. And my next question is actually going to return again next Tuesday, that's May 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be co-hosting a session with Jewelers of America President and CEO David Bonaparte on natural and lab-grown diamonds. We're going to be interviewing a couple retailers who sell both. And it should be an interesting discussion, and we're going to kind of talk to them about how they educate their salespeople, how they educate their consumers, and their decision to kind of stock both those items. Registration is available on the National Jeweler website. So that's going to be nationaljeweler.com/webinars. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and I hope to see everybody in Vegas. Have a great day.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.